Hi, everybody. This is Steve Maggi from SMA Law Firm. Welcome to another episode of Building the Bridge. And I have the privilege of being with Annette Feltz today, who is an intercultural communication specialist and facilitator, working with a lot of foreign national business people, especially from the Netherlands, that are doing business in the US or want to do business in the US. So welcome, Annette. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you've seen this for many years, people thinking about doing business in the US, launching their businesses, and then unfortunately failing. Yeah. So what are the keys to think about, or what are the most important things to avoid mistakes that you've seen that really should be more present in the minds of people that when they're planning their US expansion or they're launching a US business?
Well, you could sum it up as understanding the culture of the country where you are going to. So understanding what drives people, what's important to people, what motivates them, what creates trust. So for example, there was a company that produced water bottles. And back in the Netherlands, their water bottle was super successful. So they just took the Dutch water bottle and tried selling it in the US. They didn't do their research. They didn't realize that American water bottles are, first of all, different in size, a lot bigger. But another thing that's very important for Americans is to have their drink cold. So the water bottles need to be well insulated. In the Netherlands, people drink their drinks at room temperature, maybe 1 or 2 ice cubes. So simple things like that. The size, the temperature. So they came here, they didn't last very long because their water bottles didn't sell. So adjusting your product to what the American market needs and wants, that's one thing. Another thing is your marketing materials. You cannot just take your marketing materials and just translate them to English and use them here. Americans have very different expectations on the marketing materials. The Dutch like to use numbers. If you use my product, then your market share is going to increase by 10%. Americans are they have much more of a pioneer spirit. The first settlers who came to the United States, they were pioneers, and that spirit still lives on. So Americans, they don't need to see all the numbers of how great the product has done and how great the product will do and those expectations. No, they just want a dream. They want a vision. If I buy this product, then I am going to be more successful. I'm going to be a market leader. They want a vision of what this product will do.
That's why those infomercials in America are so popular, where you don't really see them in other countries, right? It's always life-changing.
It is, and that's what is important. Yeah, who cares about percentages? What's in it for me? That's very important. And I see a lot of Dutch companies who have presentations for their American customers or their potential American suppliers, and they come with graphs of how the product has done in the past. And that's not important. Americans are looking at the future. What is this going to do for me? So I always tell Dutch companies, think of your American client and think of what's in it for your American client. Another thing that's very important for Dutch companies or any company moving to the US market is to hire a local. Don't bring somebody from your country, in my case, the Netherlands, and put them here in the US. No, you have to have a local who has the connections. Having connections is very, very important to doing business. Having a good product isn't enough. You have to have the connections with suppliers, with manufacturers. And the person who has those connections is a local, somebody who understands the market, somebody knows how to connect with other people, with suppliers, with potential vendors, and somebody who just knows the lay of the land.
Right. I would modify what you said slightly, and I would say bring one person over, so then I can help them bring that person over, right? The person from Holland, and then make sure your team is local, or make sure that they're hyper specialized and know that market, because there are so many markets in the US that are completely different than the rest. And so even bringing in a manager from, I don't know, a small county in California to work in Detroit won't work. They have to know locally who are the movers and shakers and have the connections, right?
Yeah, and that's very important because most people see the US as one market, but the East Coast is very different from the West Coast. So when you bring in somebody, make sure that this person is, as you mentioned, hyper local.
Right.
And if you want to, well, most companies actually start with just the East Coast or just the West Coast or with a very specific region. But as you go towards other regions within the US, hire somebody local from
Right.
that specific region.
That's fantastic. And thank you for those tips. I think they're extremely helpful. You don't want to invest in something in the US and pour all your energy into it. And because you don't focus on these small details, your company goes belly up, right? You really have to do your research.
Yeah. And that's the thing, especially with Dutch companies moving to the US. The Dutch and American culture are so similar. I'm assuming that the times you've been to Holland, you felt very much at home. You didn't have any surprises. And it's the same way for Dutch tourists who are here on vacation in the US. They feel very much at home. They know how things work. And so when a Dutch entrepreneur comes to the US, they feel this false sense of security because the cultures are so similar.
Right.
But there are small differences, and it's those small differences that have a big impact. And if you ignore those small differences, they have a big impact, and they can be the make it or break it factor. But because these differences are so small, it's just some small tweaks. The way you communicate, the way you present your product, those small tweaks can have a large impact.
And that's where you come in, Annette. So how do people contact you so they can make those small tweaks to maximize their chance of success?
Yes, if they want to get in touch with me and learn more about how to do business in the United States, how to expand their company to the United States, they can email me at Annette, that's spelled ANNETTE, at expatriateassistance.com. And expatriate assistance is one word.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for all your knowledge today and for your time.
All right. Thanks for having me, Steve. This was great. Thank you.